Hello and thanks for your company today. I'm Susan Ng. The KDF Millennium Ride is what we're going to be talking about today. This is an endurance charity ride started 8 years ago in 2014. It was attempted by 50 dedicated road cyclists who completed a cross-border distance of 1,000 kilometers this year. The cyclists rode from Penang to Singapore in 6 days from the 26th to the 31st of October, all to raise funds for the patients of the Kidney Dialysis Foundation. And with such attempts, we can see both the benefits of personal health and contribution to community healthcare as well. We find out how the volunteers do it and be inspired to do good this festive season as well. With us today is Mounir Mina, and executive, who is also a first-time volunteer cyclist for the KDF Millennium Ride 2022. Mounir, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Susan.
Thank you. So let's start off with some preparations. It cannot be easy to ride 1,000 kilometers. What conditioning or preparations would actually be required to cycle this distance?
So, Susan, often the ride involves us being in temperatures upwards of 40 degrees Celsius. And on some days, we ride distances of up to 250 kilometres. And so with that in mind, both heat and endurance training under the sun are necessary parts of the preparation for a 1,000-kilometre ride. On top of that, there are also a few climbs. So training on hilly stretches is also advisable as part of the preparation and conditioning.
I can imagine only that fitness must be key. Talk to us about how long it takes to train for such an event and how fit someone must be.
Yeah, so most of us trained for multiple weekends consistently for a period of 6 months or so prior to the event. And that training often consisted of 100 to 200 kilometre rides in the heat, both in Singapore and Malaysia. And that often is about a 6 to 8 hour ride. And in between those rides, most riders will strengthen their legs at the gym, and they perform core strengthening exercises as well. Look, and at the end of the day, it's just about being in the best shape you can for cycling 12 hours a day. And that's often the time that we spend on the road as part of the Millennium Ride.
Mounir,
But, we always say that on top of, needing to be physically fit, you also need to be mentally fit, because there will be times when it can be a little bit too much. But you continue to push yourself and persevere.
Were you already quite fit before you started on this ride, Mounir?
I didn't think I was going to be able to complete the 1,000 kilometers, but I have to say there was a tremendous amount of teamwork during the ride that kept the morale high throughout the event. So we really just lifted each other up when times got tough.
So I guess this is one of those times when having company and having people to ride with, you do kind of egg each other on. You do provide that support in case mentally, you feel quite down because you think you can't finish that ride.
Exactly.
For the health-conscious listeners amongst us, tell us how many calories you can actually burn from cycling 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah, so, the adult normally burns about 2,000 calories a day. And on this ride, where we covered approximately 250 kilometres a day, you probably burn about 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day. And so often we will stop every 30 to 40 kilometres. And during these stops, you need to not only drink a lot of water, but also eat carbohydrate-rich foods like cakes and bananas and things like that. And if you don't, there's often something that can happen to riders called bonking, which just means that you haven't had enough carbs and you've exhausted your body's glycogen stores. So that just leaves you with really low amounts of glucose and you just can't continue riding.
Since this ride started in 2014, Mounir, how have the numbers grown through the years, the number of cyclists?
Yeah, so we've often had very stable numbers of cyclists, and that's sort of ranged between 45 to 60. And the reason for that is that the fundraiser's cross-border nature, and also due to safety reasons, we keep the numbers fairly, limited to that number that I mentioned.
So this year, the cyclists, you guys rode from Penang to Singapore in 6 days. What other places has this ride been happening?
So we've ridden in Southeast Asian countries. You've mentioned Malaysia, Singapore as well. There's also Thailand. We've also in Thailand in the past as well.
And you've raised about $450,000 so far this year, and this amount can support about 2,400 sessions of kidney dialysis. How best can you drive home the point that preventive care is still the best solution after having, spoken to recipients of kidney dialysis?
Yeah, so prior to the actual ride, we made a micro-documentary which consisted of 5 fellow cyclists who visited dialysis centres and had first-hand conversations with KDF's needy kidney patients. And as part of that, they understood the physical, the mental, and the financial challenges that those patients go through. Those riders also shared their motivation behind participating in the fundraiser. And for a handful of us, we had personal experience that made us realise, that good health is wealth. So on top of creating our individual fundraisers on the Giving SG website, we also engaged with friends, family, and curious members of the public and shared with them the importance of our journey. And finally, the Foundation's also been conducting health talks and webinars to the public and sharing bite-sized health education content on its social media platforms to educate for better kidney health.
Mounir, before I let you go, there is still time to donate. The fundraiser is on until the 31st of March next year. How can we donate? Where do we go to make that donation to help you reach your goal of $500,000?
Yeah, Susan, absolutely. We encourage everyone to support the KDF Millennium Ride by donating at the Giving SG page. And you can just find that by going onto Google and, just maybe typing a few keywords like Giving SG, KDF Millennium Ride, and you should be able to find it there.
Wonderful. Mounir, I wish you the best and good luck with the fundraising effort. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mounir Mina, an executive who's also a first-time volunteer cyclist for the KDF Millennium Ride 2022.